Okay, so we'll do a quick gear overview. So for gear, War Strike is required. Best in slot would be a War Strike corrupted with damage per level. For our helmet, Ariat's face, I feel is best in slot. Corrupted with 3 slockets would be best. I think you're probably going to need at least one rune in there. As far as that, some suggestions have been to go max damage per level, or max damage jewels. I guess once you get one of those, it's kind of up to you on what you do there. Because like right now I'm using 15 all res, and I think I have another 5 all res on there. So you could put another rune in there, stuff like that. As far as enchantment, currently the only enchantment that would technically be worthwhile would be the whirlwind slows by 15% on the enemy, just to give you more survivability. High Lord's Wrath, I feel, is best in slot. The Deadly Strike is really nice, as well as the all skills. Corrupted with +1 skill would be even better. A 20% IAS helps you hit the breakpoint. Ravenfrost, definitely best in slot. It helps with the dexterity requirements and cannot be frozen. AR, all are good. For corruptions, I guess faster run walk or physical damage mitigation would both be solid choices. The rare ring, I'm still trying to decide. I have some all res on this one as well as dual leech. I think that you would at least need mana leech and then probably some resistances. This one's kind of up in the air. Enigma, I think, is best in slot. 2 skills, great. 45% faster run walk, even better. 1 to warp is really nice, just moving around maps and stuff like that. It helps increase speed a little bit. 69 strength, just a lot of levels technically saved. As far as stat points, allows you to put in more into vitality to get that higher. Maximum increased life, huge. Physical damage reduction, even better. The 15% damage taken gained as mana just helps with your single target, rather than having to have mana potions on your bar, or maybe while you're fighting the boss. I don't know. There's a lot of things that feels like it helps with there. And then Magic Find gets you closer to your goal, should be 200. I feel 200 is probably optimal. As far as like, there's a chart. I don't have the link for it or anything, but I saw basically 200 is your cap, not your cap, but where it flatlines or plateaus out for unique drops. So you kind of want to aim for there without losing any DPS. Razor Tail, absolutely needed. 33% pierce is amazing, but there's no way around it. And then you have maximum damage on there, which scales really well as well. And then dex. Gloves, I think that you'd want laying on hands. The 20% IAS is huge. Holy Bolt on striking, I mean, it's extra damage. Fire res 50%, really good. And then probably corrupting these for all res. More Travelers, another one. Faster run walk adds flat damage, strength of it, and then Magic Find, just all around amazing. Boots, the flat damage, and then in itself is probably arguably why it makes it best in slot. The piece that really, I think, makes the build worthwhile or viable, unfortunately, is the Phoenix. It's a Vex Loja. Not a cheap rune word, but 40% chance to cast 22 Fireball on striking. So each one of when the dagger explodes, it shoots out basically looking Holy Bolt looking things. Each one of those that hit have a chance to cast Fireball. So it's really, really huge. Level 10 Redemption Aura when equipped, so that gives you your sustain, your mana, and life sustain. 371% enhanced damage. I believe this rolls 350% to 400. So, massive damage increase. Enemy fire resist doesn't really do much for you. I guess it helps if you're running around with an enchant sorceress, which we did earlier, which was really nice until she ripped. Flat life, max lightning res, max fire res, and 19 fire absorb, all really good. useful stats as well. So that's gear overview. On swap, I'm currently using a grandfather. I'd recommend using an E-Death, probably in a Colossus blade, Ethereal. I am just lazy. I haven't felt like trading for that, but that would help. That's what you're going to swap to for your single target damage. I'm using a Geeds, and then just max damage charms as well. I have a torch. I don't have an Annihilus, but yeah, just max damage and that fun stuff.
No.
So that's gear overview. As far as stat allocation, you only need 156 strength. I haven't bothered respecking, so I have wasted points into strength, but essentially you'd want 156 strength, 142 dexterity, the rest into vitality, and 0 points into energy. I know I haven't respec since I got a torch, and if I get an Annihilus, then I'll probably respec. Outside of that, I have enough life to survive, so I'm not too terribly worried about it. If you look at our actual damage, 1.1k to 2.9k and 1.5k to 2k, doesn't look like much. Looks really pathetic on paper, but the build literally grows in damage exactly the way a Javazon does. The more targets there are, the more damage it deals. So it doesn't have to do much. It like I said, it really excels with density. For your skills, we start with War Cries. Just 1 point in a Magic Find, 1 point into Find Item, 1 point Howl, 1 point Shout. Start with 1 point Battle Order and 1 point Battle Command. Then go to Combat Masteries. For your weapon swap, you put a point into Two-Handed Mastery. If you decide that you want to use a shield with your E-Death Colossus Blade, there's a bug, or maybe it's a way it's working, but the Two-Handed Mastery still applies to it either way. So you can put 1 point here, 1 point increased stamina, 1 point increased speed, 1 point Iron Skin, 1 point natural resists, and then max throwing mastery. For your combat skills, 1 point frenzy, 1 point concentrate, 1 point stun, and then 20 power throw, 20 bash, 20 ethereal throw. Power throw and bash are both synergies for ethereal throw. If you are masochistic or like to spam buttons, you can use power throw to technically make ethereal throw deal more damage, but half a second is not enough for me to be willing to swap between two skills. And then 1 point whirlwind, once again for our single target. For any remaining points, I recommend putting them into battle orders. Do not put points into find item or find potion. I hope I didn't say that earlier. That I did put points in into these because these are wasted points. Your redemption aura is going to destroy any corpses that you are creating. So I didn't think that through when I put a point in there. So I guess if you really want to hork things, you can take your shield off and find item. But outside of that, both skills are absolutely useless, which in turn makes Grim Ward useless as well. So there's our skill overview. We're going to show a tier 3 map. Hopefully better than last time. I had a lag issue. Hopefully static is gone as well, but we're about to find out. So here we go. Like I said, the build excels with density. So we see a lot of charge bolts everywhere, but our health really isn't going to dip too much. We still need to be aware of certain auras. So Might Aura, Fanaticism Aura, and Conviction Aura. 3 auras we really have to worry about. If you hit enough targets at once, your screen just kind of disappears for a little bit. But it's basically just throw and move, throw and move. So a lot of alt, look for stuff that drops, pick up your grand charms, of course. Boots if you really want to. Get annoyed by things, not let you pick them up. And then shift. Shift left click to throw. But yeah, you don't really want to stop for 1s and 2s. You do have to be kind of careful with snakes. They do the knockback on hit, charge attacks. So it's a bit rough. If you do get caught into a situation, obviously you have your full rejuves, but just hold your ground, shift and click as much as you can. Eventually your attack speed will take over and they'll die, hopefully. For tier 3 maps, like I said, this is where the build really starts to shine, and it just has insane clear speed. You have to be careful of the harpies. They have a tendency to do a little extra damage. I think those and the snakes are probably the scariest. Just because, as you see, I'm kind of getting bounced around here a little bit. But overall, super clean build. Probably, yeah, definitely one of the most fun that I've had. One of the most fun builds I've had so far, or made so far. Used, I should say used. I did not make this build. I have a tendency to see what other people are doing and utilize those builds. I just noticed there was not a guide updated for a while, so we have Midor in here somewhere, so I'm just going to clear that out. Wasn't a guide updated for a while, so I thought we'd go ahead and do it, but per request of Twitch chat, of course. The gear that I saw was what 1209 was using, and so I literally copied his, I guess, setup, and didn't really see anything new on it that I could improve, so we just went with it. Fanaticism aura, so just try to get rid of the aura unique, and then the rest of it's smooth. Unless you can't click. But the nice thing about tier 3 maps is you don't have to deal with any curses outside of Amp. So basically the only curse that's annoying is if you could literally get rid of Decrepify curse, it wouldn't matter. Like Amp curse is scary just because, you know, obviously you're taking a lot more damage, but it doesn't slow you down, so you get to keep your attack speed, and eventually stuff's gonna die, but when you start losing attack speed, when things get a bit hairy. Because killing targets is what keeps you alive, right? Because of Redemption Aura. Every 5 minutes, make sure to rebuff. Or whatever your timer happens to be for your buffs. But keeping those up is important because you want to keep your Merc alive. So less curses, right? Really the one downside about the map is the tier 3 boss actually deals quite a bit of damage. Not necessarily to you, but to your Merc. And so it gets a little hairy. But I guess target priority is what are they called? The harpies, and then the ghosts, and then the snakes. Unless the snakes are really close, I guess maybe they're more important. I don't know. Snakes and ghosts, they're up there. The harpies are more important because they reduce your defense, make you take more damage. And we found the boss. Woo! So the game plan here is clear out all the trash around. Pay attention to your Merc's health. Maybe. Get knocked around a little bit. Then swap. Weapon swap. Just whirlwind. Because it ends up killing it a lot faster. And you also don't have to worry about your mana issues that you'd have to worry about with this weapon throwing. Like I said, I'm using a grandfather instead of an E-Death, so it takes a bit longer. Clear's pretty good nonetheless. Rip with a tier 2 map. Not having very good luck at sustaining tier 3s. I've had a lot of downgrades. But yeah, hard part's done, so you just go through. Clear as much of it as you like. Some people would recommend just going through and killing the elites. I don't know, I like the map so much, and especially if I don't get a follow-up tier 3, I'll just clear it out, because it is really good experience. Apparently we leveled up in there. Ooh, 93. Gear alternatives that I was talking about, and I put in the written guide, was I'm still not sure about is possibly going for 100% Deadly Strike and swapping out War Travs for Gore Riders to get that 100% Deadly Strike. I don't know that it's worth it, but the idea is enticing. That knockback. I don't think we'll have enough time left this season for me to try it out, and even then it would just be something that appeared like it might be useful. Can't really tell unless there's something that actually showed your DPS or something. Otherwise it would all be on paper. And then, even then it would just be a damage over time thing. But it only happens at level 93 or 94. Let me look now. 94. You'd have to be level 94 for it to work. Unless you happen to roll a War Strikes with 10% Deadly Strike, then you can do it earlier. But then you don't have best in slot, so get that damage per level. One of the things that does stink, I think in the last 2 seasons I've only seen 2 War Strikes drop, or 3 War Strikes drop. So they don't drop super frequently. And I think even when they do, you know, most people don't even try to sell them at this point. Because the previous nerf that was done to Ethereal pretty much was thought that the build was dead, and it most definitely is not. I haven't done much in maps with characters, but this is definitely superior to Whirlwind because of the density. I don't know that you could play a build that's this tanky and do a map this fast. I take that back, because Fireclaw, there are no fire immunes on tier 3 for some reason, so Fireclaw would probably do that better. But nonetheless, it really is a super strong build. It's a lot of fun. It's a little bit unorthodox, definitely not what you would think of from a barbarian, right? He's not spinning, he's not carrying a big heavy weapon, he's throwing a little dagger or something. And so it makes it an interesting build. But it is a build I've been wanting to try for the last couple seasons, and so it's nice to finally give it a go. I was quite happy with how it turned out, since my Boson was a flop. But definitely not cheap. I do not recommend trying to start this build without a lot of, probably all the gear, to be honest. We tried it without the Phoenix Shield, and I was like, you know what, I'm immediately selling everything I have to get the Phoenix Shield, because it really was required. The sustain and the extra damage that it gives is actually really huge. You wouldn't think much from just a level 22 Fireball, but it provides a lot of AoE damage, as well as single target. Just get it. But no, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a first attempt at a guide. Looks like we'll have to go back and maybe do some editing, but please feel free to leave comments, ideas on what can be changed, and then maybe in the future we will work on doing some more of them. So we'll just finish out the rest of this map. Whee! Or until I run out of throws. We'll see which happens first. That's the other thing too. I would say that you probably want to have a spare weapon. If you saw me, I swapped weapons a little bit earlier, because it is a bit rough in maps to just use one weapon. Train. YouTube says hello. what sucks? I was really hoping we'd get a drop, you know. Something cool to show. Be like, oh, and by the way, Bear Rune.